Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sexy Business Podcast. My name is Lewd Neko, and I am joined by Spooky Dangerous.
Hello.
Now, today we are going to be tackling a bit more of a serious topic. There's been a recent sort of stream of censorship and payment processor problems happening across not only Patreon but also Gumroad, and we're now receiving information about Fanbox or Pixiv. So we're going to be talking a little bit today about how these payment processors lead to censorship within the works, how NSFW creators are dealing with it, and how the community is reacting.
Yeah, so we actually spent a bunch of time having a look into this. There's also a lot of buzz on Twitter about it. Because, for example, Gumroad posted this big boast tweet. Oh, we made, I think it was like $900,000 this week in sales. And then so many people in our industry and our mutuals that were like quote retweeting it and being like, that's because everyone in our industry is having these gigantic fire sales, you clowns. And it's a really obvious direct impact of where these people are struggling, and you can see with Twitter has become one of these last places where adult content can be posted. Like we've seen Tumblr shut down, and like a lot of other websites have become really good at monitoring that kind of content. Except for obviously porn bots, which somehow still show up on Facebook every damn day, and yet I can't post my shit on there. And then now we're seeing this really structured attack from payment providers that are removing people's ability to receive money from their content, from the games, from the stuff that they make, which has become a really big problem. I guess it's going to be easiest to start with Gumroad.
Yeah,
I
so
guess
theirs
that's
was
the
a
biggest buzz
complete
right now.
ban.
Yeah.
So, because their payment processors are only Stripe and PayPal, they have finally pulled the plug. So, anything that is remotely pornographic, whether it's sexy, like voice actor, like video or audio packs, I know,
Mm.
sexy comics, sexy cosplay, sexy ASMR audios, or even VR chat like avatars that are kind of like a little too compromising are specifically listed as one of the things not
That's
allowed. So they were like,
crazy. So yeah,
yeah, the
we've
list is
literally got a
crazy.
list here. We can put this link in the description, which is the Gumroad article about what adult content, what it's defining as sexually explicit, and the list is really specific in some place. Like with the VR chat avatars, some NSFW uses or modifications, like for example breast expansions, where the purpose of such a modification is understood to be solely for titillation, is crazy. Like that they had to get into such specificity so that if they see something even remotely sexy, that they go which is
Or like
crazy
even the
because
one that
like
says like sexual like coaching or education if it's meant for gratification instead of education. It's like, how do you define that? Like,
yeah,
someone can get
I
off to somebody
came too
putting a
much
condom on a
and didn't
banana.
learn enough. That's it, banned. But this like comes back to a similar puritanical debate that we see on stuff like Facebook, where there's a lot of models that have content and stuff on OnlyFans. You see the same thing on Twitter a lot, but they'll
Mm.
post shorts of them doing stuff or dressed in a certain way that is very clearly meant to show off parts of their body. My algorithm for Facebook Shorts is literally just women with gigantomastia, and wearing just like a tank top and nothing else, and any angle that they are standing at, you can see that they are in fact incredibly busty. And it's like, how this would not pass. This would not pass Gumroad's sexually explicit content thing, because the idea is like the content itself is not about anything other than look at me. And it's so interesting to have that same different classification being like, not any
Mhm.
kind of content that you could make 2D, 3D, drawn, artistic, anything is not okay, because we just really don't want people to come. Like, you can only sell this content if you can prove that you are locked in chastity or something.
Oh god, PayPal's the ultimate findom.
Yeah, right. The ultimate tease and denial findom.
And what's funny about like, like seeing like the sexual content on like YouTube or Facebook or like Twitch, like people have been talking about like, oh, the Twitch meta all the
Yeah,
time
or
is always
YouTube's
changing.
nude yoga, which is totally fine. The Twitch meta where Morgpie literally streamed Fortnite on her ass as a green screen this week. Yeah, because look, Twitch went through a similar thing, right? Where they were like, you know what, actually, NSFW content is okay. We're going to have a specific section for that. And it's going to be marked 18 plus, and then people that are doing these kinds of things will be in there, and we'll have the algorithm make it so that people that shouldn't be seeing this content won't be. And that lasted 2 days. We had, I think it was
God.
Devil HS that did a drawing stream and then posted like 5 minutes after the I'm going live thing a picture of him being banned. I'm like,
Yeah, a
okay,
lot of
cool.
people got bans and strikes and stuff like that.
For just doing like literally what they were told was fine in the rules announcement. So it is being become really hard. It has become a big hoop jumping sort of situation where it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to find platforms to work with. THM was on Gumroad for a very brief period of time, and we left because it didn't make enough money. It wasn't worth the effort to continue to keep it updated. And now that it's pulled everything off it, I'm just like, I don't care. Happy to be
Yeah.
gone, I guess.
And then the other big thing was Patreon. Patreon's had a lot of various censorship rules and changes over their long course of existence. Because it used to be pretty laissez-faire on Patreon. There was all sorts of kinds of fetishes. And then it was like, oh, okay, certain kinds of like furry stuff or beastie stuff we're not allowing. And then it was like, oh,
Yeah.
no
A couple
blood-related
months ago, there
incest
was
or
one where it was like, you must very clearly define that everybody is above 18. There mustn't be any character that could be misconstrued as a child. And there's a few places that actually have really well written rules about this. Like Steam says specifically you cannot have an 800-year-old vampire that looks like a 10-year-old girl. Like this is not me making a joke. This is me quoting the Steam's sexual guidelines on it. Like it literally says that.
oh my God.
Um, and things like that, where it's like a genuine age of consent problems that we can experience is handled better. And then more recently, the thing that people are talking about currently on Patreon is that everyone must express incredibly clear consent, which is very difficult, right? And especially in the niche that I work in, and like any kind of
Yeah.
femdom niche, right? My problem is me as a person, I'm incredibly consent minded. I really enjoy being able to have that as something that people discuss. Like we talked in the previous episode, like a negotiation period before doing any kind of a thing, where everyone understands what's happening and what they kind of want out of it,
Yeah,
and
because
so that
real
everyone
life's
understands.
different.
Exactly, right? And then in our games, where these fantastical things are supposed to happen, the character's journey goes from, oh no, I'm in a bad situation, to actually realizing that this is who they were supposed to be all along. And that can't happen if the character already knows at the start, yes, mommy, please, I beg you, this is exactly what I want. So we'll be adjusting our content slightly to kind of do this. Black Contract is a really good example because the main character Laura is literally like, we're not doing anything until you sign the Black Contract. So it cannot get any more consensual than that.
Mhm.
So yeah,
And it's
trying
also
to do
just
the same
awkward to
thing.
include that in some cases, where like,
Yeah,
the character turns to the screen and is like, "Hello, I'm 18 plus. I am not currently intoxicated or hypnotized or anything else, and I can't wait to have sex with this woman."
I am so desperate for this to happen. Yeah, and it's really hard because there's a lot of genres of content where consent cannot be expressed, or you could argue that it could never be given. Any form of furry or any form of sexual contact with a non human is
Mm.
technically dubious consent because from memory, there was like a classification when it came to legality around bestiality, where it's like whether it had the ability to give consent or not, and it's like
Yeah.
you had to meet the certain rules to be classified a living thing or something like that, and like like the Turing test equivalent of can I fuck this thing,
The
which is
harshness test.
ridiculous. Yeah, right. Is this too old? Is this intelligent enough? Is this physically compatible or whatever? And also, one of the ones that I saw recently is a transformation type art thing where people are
Mm,
turned into animals, and the whole
okay.
point of the content is the surprise and the being mystified at the transformation and the oh no, what's happening to me aspect of it, um, which can't be consensual. Like you can't, you know what I mean? But you can like still
Yeah.
learn to live like that afterwards. Or uh, Marmalade Mum has a chemistry class which is about in the first one, because there's two chapters, and like the whole first chapter is about the main female character being turned into a cow, and when the act happens of the changes starting, she wanted something different, and then what she turned into was something that she didn't want but ends up learning to live like that. And that's
Yeah.
not uncommon for regular human experience. The shit goes wrong all the time. But could you argue that that was not consensual because the outcome was not what they had agreed to at the start, and it was an irrevocable circumstance? Like, how are
Yeah.
these people determining what is consensual and what is not consensual? Is it at the point of the initiation of contact? Is it because consent is retractable, right? Like, it also
Yeah.
has to be assessed after the act as well. Did partway through something change and someone was made to feel uncomfortable and didn't want to be doing it anymore? Or did consent go from being unsure consent to becoming enthusiastic consent in the beginning of the story or whatever? And it's such a hard thing, both in real life and in media, to be able to assess this.
Yeah, and I know hypnosis is another one of the big ones that gets banned all over
Mm.
the place. I think it's been banned on Patreon even before this most recent one because credit card companies very specifically have like specific stuff about hypnosis. They see that as like non-consensual. Like, oh, if you're
Mm.
hypnotized, you can't make any more choices, which isn't really how real hypnosis works. That's how it works in the movies. Oh, I hypnotized this girl and now she has
Mind
to do whatever I
control.
want.
Yeah.
But real hypnosis, and I'm saying this as someone who's like done real erotic hypnosis, there's still a part of your brain that is active and that can say like, oh no, actually. And ultimately someone can't force you to or hypnotize you, especially not in like one session to do something you would absolutely never do. But like you can even upload hypnosis audios where like the viewer is being hypnotized,
Yeah, because
or like
sissy hypno is
ASMR.
like a really common genre,
Yeah.
especially on stuff like X videos, where you will have visuals which can include swirling lights or whatever, but often it's just like clips from porn and then like audio messages and stuff like that as well. But like the thing is,
Yeah.
to watch that video, you had to go looking for it. You had to watch it and then choose to continue watching it for the entire duration of it, and then go and watch more later. Like, that's a consent. You've chosen to have this done to you. The other thing I think is really funny is that, like, people watching porn or whatever be like, hell yeah, he put it in her ass. I'm gonna try that next time I have sex in real life. But then you watch like a hypnosis media and you're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna try that in real life, and just very clearly, obviously, is not going to work. Like, so
Yeah, real
I
hypnosis takes a lot of dedication to learn how to do it. It takes a lot of practice and honing and negotiations. Like,
yeah.
one hypnosis company I really enjoy is Mesmerotic. And they actually include for some of their more intense, because they've done like a CNC hypnosis like scene, is they included both the negotiations and the aftercare as like bonus videos. So, if you were worried about the actress, you can actually hear them talking to her about like, okay, here's what we're gonna do to you, and here's exactly what's gonna happen in the scene. Like, here's your safe word. Here's how you can stop this at any point. All of the good stuff. But like, even if they did that under like Patreon's rules, like even if you had
Mm.
negotiations, as soon as that kink is involved, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because I
You
think
can't consent.
we talked about this previously before with the Japanese culture of I have to say no many times before I can say yes. So
Mm.
literally any Eastern content, any JAV does not pass the consent test for this.
Yeah, or like most porn games have some form of dubious consent. somewhere in the game.
Mm.
It might not be the main focus, but there's a lot of games that have bad endings or, non-con on defeat or, other sorts of like, small scenes where someone might be like, oh, I don't really want to do that. Or, oh, I'll only do that with if you pay me, which is
Mm.
also arguably not consensual. I'm not sure how Patreon would deal with a situation like that because who knows? The rules are vague enough that they can basically just do whatever they want.
But also, what's the difference between character consent and player consent, right?
Mm,
Fuda Domwald is a really good example of this because they recognize that some kinks are not for everyone, and right
yeah.
before a particular scene will play, it will be like, "Ooh, you might not want to see this. We understand that some people really want this, but here's your opportunity to skip this scene. This is the content that's going to be in it. If you do not want to see that, you can skip it. It has no gameplay ramifications at all. It's just whether or not you want to see the scene. That's fine. We can move on." And that's an example of asking a player for consent before showing them the content. Words are hard. Um, and like
Yeah,
that's
there's
got to be
actually
similar thing, right? Like if they've asked the player, "Are you sure you want to have this experience?" Like warning, this is going to hypnotize you to make you want to suck cock all day, and yet you still signed up and clicked the button. That should be allowed.
Yeah, and it's even weirder because of the fact that it's like even the fictional characters have to follow all these rules. Because to an extent, I understand some of the legislation around why like certain clip sites can't sell certain things. I still think it's a lot of bullshit for the most part, but there are some cases where I'm like, okay, they're just concerned about, could this person be victimized? Could they be being forced to do this? Like, could this be a pathway towards selling like more, black market sort of content?
Mm,
But with a fictional character, no one is being hurt.
mm,
That anime girl isn't real. She's not an actual, person who is being traumatized or kidnapped or anything like that. She's just a, a drawing on a screen. So it's just so bizarre that they had to add this rule that, like, oh, everybody's got to be very clearly consenting the
yeah,
whole time or else.
enthusiastically non-withdrawn consent. Yeah, actually, talking about the aftercare thing that you mentioned before, one of the things that I do like in the same way that people have a waifu and they're really interested in a lot of that content, there's a lot of adult actresses' careers that I will just not like follow as in like I want to consume all of the content, but like I will see them do stuff and be like, oh, that's cool,
Mhm.
or it's good to see them
Yeah.
still working around, or like now they're working with this company or whatever. Like, there's a lot of actresses that have become directors and stuff like that. I like that transition. But it's always funny to see the actress have behind the scenes content or interviews and stuff where they're talking to them and it's like, here's what's going to happen today, and they're like, yeah, I'm really excited about this thing in particular. I've been trying to
Yeah.
organize this for a long time. I really want to do it. And then like the actual scene happens and then they seem to be like, oh, they're put in a situation where it might be uncomfortable, or I mean like physically uncomfortable, like being tied up
Mhm.
or whatever, or like you have 9 dicks in you. And then afterwards, again, still they're like, yes, this was amazing. I've been looking forward to this whole time. But then, like when you have, especially like for free content, a lot of it's like really truncated and shortened, and you just have that like middle impactful part. You don't see that whole story of, yes, this is what I would look for. I actually went through a lot of effort to organize this and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which I think is just as bad and should, in the same way, like because something doesn't tell a whole story, it can't follow that rule. Like it can't. And I think because the thing is so vague, I think it's just giving them the power to remove anyone that they want from the platform. And
Yeah.
I said this before we started recording, but I do believe that a lot of this stuff literally is just kind of like class warfare. It is just trying to remove money from poor people and put them back into the gears of the corporate machine. Because if you can't create a business where you're working for yourself and generating your own income, even if it is off the backs of other workers, because you provide a service that no one else can do legally these days, then you're being punished for that, and then you're now having to go back and fall into the get a real job kind of a thing. Like I'm confident that every single person that works in our industry, every game dev that's suffered for hours to try and make these games and make this content, and then has had someone be like, "Oh, get a real job," and it's like, well, no. First of all, I'm forklift certified. I've been forklift certified for 6 years. I've never been more harassed on any work site. I've been hospitalized from work sites 3 times. I like literally collapsed and nearly died from mold poisoning in the factory I was
Oh
working in.
God.
And then I come and I'm working at my own thing. I have somewhere between 7 and 9 people working for me currently. I am their full livelihood, right? I'm not talking about just for THM because I run a couple of things at the same time. But like all the artists that work for THM rely on us for that steady work because it is every month, right? And then
Mm.
stuff like Patreon keeps that all afloat because that money is consistent. We know it's coming in. We can't rely on Steam sales all the time. You can only buy the game once on Steam. I mean, please buy it more than once on Steam. That would be great.
Gift it to all of your
But
friends.
people don't really do that. And so having this regular subscription, this regular content, this regular income provides a lot of security for us doing this thing because people do want this kind of content and you have to be spending the money on it for it to exist. Otherwise, we are now forced back into the machine because we are unable to survive without it. And this is just more
Yeah.
pressure on us to like have to be able to thrive under harder circumstances to be able to do it.
And I feel like a lot of these like companies that are invested in this sort of censorship and control of like, what kind of things you're allowed to look at, they really prey off the jealousy I think a lot of people feel towards anyone really in the adult industry. Like people feel violent vitriol towards women who can profit off the fact that they're hot.
Yeah, there's a lot of anti
Because
OnlyFans girl rhetoric for sure.
yeah. Of like, oh, it's the same thing where like anytime when the OnlyFans ban happened, there was a lot of people just like, haha, you have to get a real job now.
Yeah.
And it's like this affects you. And now stop acting surprised that now we have porn bans in multiple United States where you can't look at certain websites anymore if you are in that state because they are requiring that like every single viewer has to be ID verified. Like this is the goal is that they can just track you and have your ID and know what websites that you're on. And like obviously nobody's gonna want to submit their ID just to go on Pornhub. So it's gonna have like these major sort of like repercussions. Plus, why would
Mm,
you trust the government with that kind of data? Or why would you trust a porn site, especially with
that's
that
it.
kind of
Don't
data?
let your ISP know that you were on Pornhub for 12 hours yesterday. Instead, let your ISP know that you were on Steam playing Shackles of Elswyn for 12 hours yesterday.
Hey, now you can hide your activity at least from your friends. So if you're one of those people that has to be sneaky about it,
Bro, a
you have options
NordVPN
now.
fucking sponsor would go so hard right now.
And now you can buy the forbidden Japanese games with NordVPN.
Exactly. Um, but I did want to go through some tweets quickly. We did previously in the episode talk about how some of the community was talking about this, and I have put one up already about the Pixiv announcement because there is a lot of people talking about this. We had like a Gumroad tweet that came out recently where they're like, "We made all this money," and the quote retweets were absolutely fine with people lighting them up because it's all fire sales, all trying to get rid of that content before the ban comes down and everything is gone. But Tango Bat, an artist that I like who does a lot of furry stuff and some transformation time stuff, um, has put out a thing which is like, here's a bunch of sites that you can actually have not safe for work friendly stuff on there so that people can actually come to and use it. We were talking before about someone who was raising a class action lawsuit against the unlawful censorship that MasterCard is putting on. And I saw 30 Helens, another person in MySpace that I really like, said something similar where it was like, okay, first of all, why does PayPal and MasterCard, these American companies, force their puritanical beliefs on every other country? All of them.
Yeah.
Like, that feels a bit unfair. And then 30 Helens put out a couple of fire tweets, like, just spitballing here, but it should be illegal for payment processors to blanket ban legal transactions. And Fanbox is not using PayPal for not safe for work art. It would mean a lot to me if everyone just screamed at PayPal real loud for being puritanical assholes. It might change something, it might not. It'd make me feel better. And 30 Helens, it would make me feel better as well.
Yeah, and this is also a reminder if you are someone who works in the adult industry, whether it is as a hentai commissioner, furry artist, sex worker, cam girl, lewd tuber, whatever the fuck, you should not be relying on PayPal for your transactions. I've seen so many people lose their personal accounts, lose personal money. Also, if you have money in PayPal, you should take it out immediately, always, because otherwise you are risking your account. If it gets banned, if you get in trouble for NSFW, they can basically seize all of that money and you will probably never see it again. You even have to be careful if your friends like send you a PayPal transaction and they put like haha sex 69 in the comment. I've seen people lose their accounts for that. I know because like in at some of the kink parties I go to, they use Venmo for the tickets and they put like very specifically like do not include any comment that sounds remotely sexual. Just say for the party or for the dance or whatever, because otherwise, they can really quickly lose
Get their
their
account
Venmo
shut
account.
down. Yeah, I should tell my roommate to stop sending me rent with thanks for the blowies in the comments.
Yeah, seriously, like people get in trouble for like even just making jokes or using the wrong like string of emojis or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, so we're at war. You, soldier, have now been signed up to fight in the please. I would still like to look at Pornhub at the comfortability of my own house.
Yeah,
Because
seriously.
that's kind of where we're at. We're watching all of these things happen in real time as slowly all comes and removes us from these places, and people keep trying to make these replacements, right? Like we had
Mm,
Blue Sky pop up. Blue Sky is still irrelevant.
yeah.
We had another smaller one pop up, which was like this is super pro
Mastodon?
NSFW. No, it wasn't Mastodon. It was something else, and I joined it, and it sucked, right? Because the main issue is that you need a big user base for these things to happen. The way that our industry works is it relies on customers to find your product and spend money on your product. When you work a job where you have an employer, all of your money comes from one place. That one dickhead that employs you gives you all of the money that you need to live. When you run a business or you make games and you sell products, you need lots of people to buy the product for you to get money, unless if the product costs like $1,000. When you're selling a game for $5 and you need to make a certain amount of money every week to eat, then that number of people, like, times five, is how many sales you're going to have to make. And if your entire livelihood vanishes from your main marketing asset, like Twitter, like Tumblr was really big,
Mm.
like TikTok and stuff like that, like shorts and reels and like stuff on YouTube, where you see a lot of these OnlyFans women make really good reels content, which takes them to the My Pussy in bio, and then they make a lot of money on the OnlyFans. And then without that contact to the user, to the end customer, you won't be able to make any money, and this content won't be able to exist anymore.
And then I also want to say for any of my fellow Americans, if you think this isn't going to happen to your state, if you think it isn't possible that one day America is just going to go absolutely puritanical and start banning all kinds of porn, it could happen. Prohibition happened in this country. I would not be surprised if the bans on porn and adult content just got more and more severe. So please pay attention to who it is that you're voting for, to what the elected officials are doing in your county or your state, and things like that. It's support NSFW artists. If an artist you love was affected by this, send them a couple of dollars this week, because that really does make an impact, not just on the artist, but on the larger like NSFW community.
That's right. You heard it here, folks. Send all of your money to Lewd Neko. I'm going to have her bank account details in the description for you to check out. Make a direct contribution to your favorite
You put
LewdTuber.
$100 on like a fishing line, and I'll come chase after
I'm
it.
imagining like a box and stick trap that has like $100 under it with a fishing line, and as you
Yeah,
jump
just
onto the $100, the box closes on you.
exactly. You just put some like a hentai manga and some money and some snacks, and you got me in a trap.
But that is it for today's episode. A stressful one, unfortunately, because we live in scary times, and one of the reasons why we want to do this show and stuff like this is to talk about what it is like, not just being a customer, but being a creator in this industry, because there's not a lot of discourse about what it's like beyond the average Twitter post of the artist saying how hard the job is, which is difficult to take seriously, but having a real conversation about these kind of things and talking about some of the issues that we face with like links and sources and analytical impact that you can see how our livelihoods can be struggling and entirely depend on these incredibly thin networks. Lewd Neko literally said earlier that if you're going to have your PayPal, you're going to have your Patreon removed, you're going to have a big impact to your business. And let me tell you, my entire net worth is in PayPal right now, and I am very scared. That said, please get in the comments. Tell us, do you have any personal anecdotes? What artists do you support that you think might have felt the impact recently for us to reach out to and talk to? Because we would love to hear from more people in the industry about what's going on, how this has affected you. And while you're looking at that, comment section, you might as well go ahead and click the like button. Hit the bell for notifications. If I say the subscribe word out loud, a little rainbow thing appears, and that's kind of cool too for you to click on. And then hit the like button also, because look, it's 29 minutes into the episode. We fucking earned it. And then we'll see you in the next episode with hopefully a lighter topic.
See you next time.
Bye.